So let's change the conversation now and talk about the political parties amendment bill that's before the National Assembly. It is a bill that we saw, in the last couple of days, getting MPs to a point of blows, and I don't know, someone beat someone's finger. I don't know, someone was admitted. Someone was admitted because of a bitten finger. I don't know whether they got a tetanus shot. I don't know what happened to the teeth that bit. All these things, getting to a point where even the Speaker of the National Assembly saying, but Munaona, this is what you're bringing. Garbage in, garbage out. Someone's speaker did not say that garbage elected him to be the speaker, but I digress. Let's talk about that bill. The Executive Director of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, Kenya, Frank Mukwanja, joins us now in the Situation Room. Good morning, Frank.
Good morning, Eric. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Hi, thanks for inviting me. This is my maiden appearance here.
Yes, we've been planning this. You see, we waited specifically for this particular opportunity.
Very much honored.
It's good to have you in the show.
Great.
Ndu says good morning.
Yes. My spokesman here has assisted me in greeting you. Karibu sana.
I want us to start by, first of all, understanding CMD Kenya, and then we'll go into the bill.
Correct.
Who is Center for Multi-Party Democracy?
Center for Multi-Party Democracy is an organization for, of, and by political parties, founded way back in 2004 with the mission to strengthen individual political parties so that they can contribute to a meaningful multi-party democratic environment in the country. So over the years, we have led inter-party dialogue. We have held political parties to account by making sure they're doing that at a peer level and also sharing, doing study exchange visits, capacity building, training of women, contributing incrementally to the two-third gender discourse to the level that it is today. We have worked with young people. We provide alternative voices for political parties jointly, and that is the work we do. So inter-party dialogue, critical training young people and special interest groups to meaningfully engage in politics, quite critical, contributing to the policy, legal and constitutional framework around political parties in this country.
So it's a membership organization?
Yes.
And who are the members?
Political parties.
Okay.
Which political parties?
All these political parties. Jubilee is a member of CMD. ODM is a member of CMD. ANC, Wiper, Ford, Kenyan, Kenya. All these political parties. We currently have a membership, a fully subscribed membership of 16 out of our target of 28. We have a criteria that members become members of CMD. Political parties become members of CMD. You need to have at least one elected leader at a national level. That is in the Senate, presidency, or
National Assembly.
National Assembly. And then any seat at the county level, be it members of county assembly. But those ones, we make them 5. So at the county level, you must have at least 5 elected MCAs. At a national level, you need to get at least 1. So there are 28 such political parties. We have a membership of 16 currently, with all major political parties involved.
So, can we essentially say that the center is a place where political parties then would be able to come and get better in their practice of politics, to be able to, bump heads every now and then, figure out ways to operate better within the country?
Correct. And it's not only at the CMD. It is important that all of us get involved in politics because it is about defining issues and disagreeing on the approaches to solve the problem, but at least agreeing on what is the problem. And I think that has incrementally been missing in this country. And CMD, we provide that space to look at issues and say this is critical, must be considered regardless of the approach. We agree that it's a problem that we must solve. For instance, we have generally agreed that the question of money in politics is an issue that we must look at. So campaign financing for all these political parties is something key that we should be concerned. The question of gender equality and social inclusion in political parties is a matter that we have to approach collectively as political parties and raise our standards. The third question that we have generally agreed is the issue of representation, that people must be well represented. And in the course of doing that, they must be involved in determining what question are we considering as our challenge. So which party is proposing which are solutions so that we can vote based on policy alternatives.
Sure.
Yeah.
I know we want to look at the bill in detail today, but I think maybe this question will help us then now usher into that. So where does issue-based politics then play in all of this? Because if we look at the origin, history of political parties, where they began was to be able to use this body to be able to tackle issues that affected people and nations, right? Along the line, it would appear as though the plot was lost and that now political parties were then, or even till today, are being used then to hoist a particular individual into the limelight. That everybody joins a political party to then be part of a movement that then gets somebody into government, and then we can all eat from this pie.
Yeah.
So where did we lose it, and how then are we trying to bring it back? If at all, that is where you want to go.
Indeed, it is only through political parties that you can be able to aggregate and communicate interests, regardless of which way we want to work. It is through political parties that will do that. But it's not true that political parties have entirely failed to do this in this country. I think we must appreciate that work is ongoing. We compare ourselves to developed democracies, the question, which is a good thing to encourage us. But the question we must be responding to, are political parties willing to take that route? Are they being pushed by the supposed members that should be part of the political parties? Kenyans are weaker at contributing, dedicating themselves to political discourses. But if you look at it, the leadership of the political parties have also failed to deliberately consider issues in the aggregating and communicating the interests. What we have arrived at is a competition of ethnicity. If you look at the order of priority in terms of which issues inform Kenyan politics, you will consider that ethnicity is key, money is second, thirdly could be technology now, because of COVID and the nature of the voter that you have today. They are not rally goers. You have to engage them alternatively. Issues come at number 4. And it's a weakness on both ends of demand and supply. Leaders are not deliberately mobilizing around issues because it is easy to influence political outcomes through ethnicity, through money, and now through technology. All right. Voters are not really demanding these issues because they also not dedicating themselves to the process. Things like, social vetting, those processes are weak because of the level of interest that the general Kenyan has. And we need to create that demand as we talk. So political parties have not failed, but we need to do a lot more. When we compare ourselves to developed democracies, we should be asking ourselves, if we do what America was doing 50 years ago, would our democracy be good? We are facing a different environment. We have different voters. We have different needs. The world is changing, even the climate-wise. There are issues that we have to respond to urgently. How do we use political parties to mainstream these arguments? But we agree that this is the problem. Political parties then disagree on the approaches of solving that problem.
Is it because we actually do not have political parties in this country, Frank? We have vehicles, we have things called political parties that have to be registered by law, but really, practically, do we have political parties in this country?
At the leadership level, no. I agree with you, but at the structural level, I think we have seen political parties develop processes, systems that, those structures that can get people to, can help political parties form and institutionalize as a public entity. But in terms of leadership, we are not seeing political parties doing their role in providing leadership on the issues of the day. They're used mainly to meet political leaders' ends than really pursue those issues. We have a Labour Party, for instance, but have we had these parties come up with, industrial questions?
Yeah.
We have employment problems. We have we have issues of layoffs, joblessness, and we need these parties to articulate these issues in a way that convinces those people that their interests are being communicated, that we should be part of this process, so that we can raise our voices and our concerns. That's how I look at it, Eric.
If we look at the development of our multi-party democracy, let's just look back in the last 30 years. Okay, so we wanted more than one political party. We had only one thing called KANU. We wanted more. So we have had very many more. We have how many registered political parties now?
We have about 80 registered.
About
fully
80.
registered, and
80.
about 10 or so partially registered.
So about 8, let's talk about the fully registered. 80 registered political parties. About 28 that's qualified to meet CMD. That means that they have elected leaders at national level,
or
and
5.
or 5 at least at the county level.
Yeah.
Are they just vehicles, or are they really political parties? Are we advancing our multi-party democracy, or are we every day eroding that dream and aspiration of actually turning Kenya into a multi-party democracy?
I'll use the analogy my Sunday school teacher used one time growing up. Salvation, she put it this way: salvation is about facing the right direction. How you walk towards the right direction is what salvation is, but you must face the right direction. And I think our country, in terms of multi-party democratic development, is facing the right direction. We have provided for how political parties should be found. If you look at Article 91 and Article 260, quite clear on what a political party is. I keep on asking, then why are we redefining what a political party is if it's provided for in Article 91 and Article 260? Can we realign ourselves to this? And one of the issues that we've raised with political parties is that idea of a corporate member, for instance. Being a political party, being a member of another political party. Now, our question is, Eric, as a member of can you be a member of 2 political parties? And the answer is no. So why do we want...
So legally, no individual can be a member of 2 parties.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. But we create...
We're having a debate now where I can be a member of this political party, and then the party can be a member of another party.
Yes.
By extension, I then become a member of the 2.
That party.
Yeah, look at such confusion. We have this. So we are facing the right direction. Why I'm saying so? We have a constitution that is pointing us in the right direction. Any turns that can be done, and Parliament should be keen not to be a tool for political buffoonery and pursuing selfish gains, because Parliament uses donated power from the citizens. And if we engage in this discourse clearly, you will see that Parliament will push through some of these processes. But if they're challenged in the court, then a court overturns some of them, which means that the Constitution has provided that safety net, that things cannot just get out of order completely. So as we continue responding, if you look at our advancement from 92, how political parties got involved in the electoral process, 97, 2002, how they began to have a conversation in terms of coalitions, 2013 about mergers, all right? To date, when political parties are looking at, again, discussing and amending the constitution. It's a process that we must say we are facing the right
And
direction.
that's why, Frank, I'm looking back at all those things that you've actually mentioned, and I can't help but wonder whether we are actually facing in the right direction or whether we are turning from that right direction.
Any attempt
The
to force
idea
a
of
turn is
1992
challenged consistently, yes.
The idea of 1992 of let's have more than one political party.
Yeah.
And political parties are formed. We see Ford and they splinter, but we see Ford, DP, and the others forming. And people joining those parties and people supporting the structures of those parties and people holding national delegates conferences for those parties. Progressively, those things are no longer taking place. We are not seeing NDCs taking place in parties. We are not seeing proper national elections taking place in parties. We have all these political parties who are members of your organization, the 16 of them, I bet you, all of them have caretaker leadership because they have not held an election according to the laws and the constitutions of their own party and the law of the land. So we have all these things on paper, but we are moving away from the ideals of a multi-party democracy.
You see, I insist that we're facing the right direction because any attempts to force an alternative direction has been challenged successfully in court processes. Yesterday, two organizations went to court to challenge the campaign financing the elections campaign financing,
Regulations.
Actually, action by parliament, and this tells us that you cannot get away with what is being done. If it's about political parties compliance, we have seen IEBC have a conversation with political parties and initially tell them, look, your party primaries, your party nomination procedures are not in order. And they were able to work on that. We will have a ruling on the elections campaign financing that will clearly settle the question of how we regulate money in our politics. Already, we have a ruling around the 2/3 gender rule. And today, political parties cannot submit to IEBC a list. Let me put it this way. If you want to field in all the 290 constituencies, you have to provide IEBC with a list that has at least 130 women. All right? If you don't do so, the IEBC will not receive that list. All these developments and rulings and ideas are moving the multi-party democratic development process forward. And it's not just the action of political parties. Political parties given a free hand, they would, as we have seen, want to have conversations go in a particular direction. I'll give you, for example, in 2017, we had amendments, last-minute amendments to the Elections Act. And you would look at those amendments and ask yourself, is it for purposes of the elections or is it for purposes of leveling the playing field for a particular candidate or all candidates or all the voters? And the answer is no. It is not for it's not for the elections and leveling the playing field for everyone. We have, if it was, we have the elections bill again pending in Parliament. We have the elections campaign financing amendment pending in Parliament. We have the political parties primaries pending in Parliament. Why just this,
Parties amendment bill?
political parties amendment bill? Clearly, why is
What's the contention here? And I think even as we see this then playing out tomorrow back in the House, there's a lot of contention, there's a lot of noise, a lot of billows of smoke going up right now. But I think there's a lack of understanding in terms of what's really in contention for this bill right now. So what exactly is going on, at the center of it?
Yeah, three things from where I sit. One is the question of public participation. Earlier I mentioned that this bill was published on 3rd December. It was received by the Parliament Legal Department on the 15th of December. Mark you, the National Assembly had progress had left for their longer, long recess on 2nd of December. All right. Then it is recalled in the week of 20th to consider this bill. And if you look at the questions that should be considered are weighty. One of the questions is what exactly a political party means. And we are faced by a constitutional question, actually. Is the proposed amendment to make a party have a corporate membership a constitutional? Is it constitutional? And the answer may be no, right? And we are clear that even if it passes, we have to have that clarified as well. The other question that we have to confront ourselves is the issue of how long we should take to register a political party. They're extending it to 270 days from the initial 180. What is really the question? Why should it take this long? Is it not a question of public participation? The other question that we have to look at is the conduct of parliament itself. If they are ready to have a conversation and vote about it, disregarding what it contains and entails public participation, what precedents are they setting? And these are challenges that we have to confront.
These are the issues.
And then finally, I have said, we have all these other bills that should positively contribute to the organizing, the conduct, the preparations, and the authenticity and the verification of the results. The elections bill is still pending in Parliament. The political parties primaries bill, which then the political parties primaries are coming in 60 days or so, is pending in Parliament. The elections campaign financing bill is pending in Parliament. Why just this particular one? And these are the questions we're asking. For what end? Is it to improve on the preparations of the elections?
Or is it to erode?
Or is it for the sake of political buffoonery and selfish gains of the House?
With us in the studio is Frank Mukwanja, Executive Director of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, Kenya. We are talking about the Political Parties Amendment Bill that's raised a storm in Parliament. So, Frank, just as a brief, what is it that the Political Parties Amendment Bill seeks to do? If we were just to explain it using clearly labeled diagram for 25 marks.
Yeah, I think what we are contending here is a conversation that is faulty. And without even going into the exact details, is that the entire conversation is faulty. Because the idea of redefining what political parties are and saying that one political party can be a member of another, when the same constitution in Article 91 and Constitution and 260 defines already for us for a political party. We also already have a law that is clear. If there are two political parties that share a particular opinion, can they merge? And that happened in 2013. Jubilee itself is a product of about 12 collapsed political parties.
Sure.
All right? We know very well that a coalition is a cooperation, is a combined action by the political parties, and that is already provided.
So what is the bill seeking? What is the bill? What are the proposals, the key proposals in this bill? Number one, it says redefine.
It's about redefining what is a coalition.
Okay.
It's about redefining a political party. It's about calling a coalition a political party. That is number one. Number two is about the period of registering a political party, which I don't think is a major issue. But we have to agree on, in terms of, is it 180? Is it 270 days? What does it to register a political party? What should be the contributions for individual members to register a political party? I think that a basic conversation that we want to talk about. The other basically is the other basically for clear reasons. Is the party primaries. That they are saying, let's have direct party primaries or let's have indirect party primaries. What that does is that it limits the political parties.
What does it mean, direct or indirect? What's the difference?
Indirect means that the political party executives can sit and say, we have candidate
this is
X.
our choice move.
Yes.
So the executives of the party can basically nominate.
Yes. can pick a candidate and say we have by-elections in constituency B, and our candidate is XYZ, and that's the decision. Indirect nomination is other means that the candidates, have a consensus and have that, discussions. The other aspect that is clear, that is required, is that the party members need to participate in these processes. Where we're saying that let's centralize this decision of who becomes the candidate is a huge problem that has to be confronted, because we know very well that in some of the areas, we have the party primaries are as good as elections.
Sure.
So if you don't have a sufficient mechanism to participate at that level meaningfully, then continuously we get in leaders through the processes that we are unable to participate because of the gatekeepers that are existing and are using the law to try to do that at every
to manipulate the system.
So this is exactly what we're seeing here, because then, forgive me for seeing a little bit beyond this, but then we have to look at how things have been heavily politicized in this country historically, right? Now, in as much as we see the decisions that could come out of this debate tomorrow, telling heavily on what is going to happen in the next couple of months, and as important as that is, I still see this as politics playing from one side to the other, because a decision would then be made, and what happens is that you have one side then benefiting over another. If we're looking at the corporate membership, for example, if I have a political party and I'm a member of this party, and if the law already says that I can only be a member of one party, if this party then becomes a member of this other body corporately, essentially what I am is a member of two political parties. So what that does is that it increases your numbers, and then it gives you advantage in terms of numbers. It does, however we want to look at it, right? So you can see this playing out where one side vehemently already is refusing and saying absolutely not, because we're disadvantaged. Another side is saying, let's pass this thing because we then are advantaged. And so we have these sides playing off against each other. And the spirited efforts that members of parliament are making right now is maybe not about the law or the act, but it's more about the politics of the two sides playing against each other.
I agree. And I started by saying this, that this is about leveling the playing field for a particular interest in the coming elections. It has nothing to do with preparing sufficiently to improve the elections so that all of us participate well in a verifiable process with a justifiable outcome that is credible and can be challenged, and you can all arrive at a decision and say, look, this is the outcome of the process. This is clear leveling the playing field for one of the interests.
But can we also argue that it could help in the long run?
In what way?
Some of the provisions maybe of the bill could help in the long run in a democratization and localizing our democracy. Say, for example, the definition of a political party, and now introducing that definition of a corporate political party. Why? What's the context behind it? How long have we gone through the journey of coalitions, and what successes have we had in the journey of coalitions?
Or why did we
what
have
challenges have we
in
had in the journey of coalitions? So let's look at the coalitions. Jubilee Coalition, CORD Coalition in 2013. NASA Coalition in 2017. What have we learned from this? What mistakes have been made out of those coalitions? CORD Coalition and NASA Coalition, for example, we've seen the whole discussion and debate around the sharing of the political parties' fund.
Eric, the overall, the overall answer for me to you about coalitions and parties is that coalition is a killer of multipartism. And I'll tell you this way. There are the positive and the negative effects of the coalition parties that we've had. One of the positive ones is that, look, the 2010 constitution process was a good product of a coalition between ODM and PNU. And you may argue that without that political environment and coalition politics and being able to say, these are the priorities that we will pursue as a coalition, then you may say that may not be possible, may not have been possible. And that will also help you understand why the 2005 constitutional referendum ended up that way. And so that is one positive about coalitions. But the negative part of it is that we then stop talking about the issues in the coalition to talk about the individuals. What am I going to gain as an individual when I am in government? Because at that time, we have already sacrificed our own constituencies. We have sacrificed our issues at the behest of raw political power. And therefore, you're not representing anything else other than self-interest. So the coalitions have had both negative and positive impacts. But as a multi-party practitioner, I'll tell you clearly and definitely that we may not be very successful as a country going forward in terms of multi-party development if we continually have political coalitions that are not functioning. We are better off, wearing our prawns as Kenyans and developing the political parties for obvious reasons. That even this conversation that we are having today is because it's a faulty conversation. We retain Article 91 and Article 260 conversation that whatever we are saying that we want to change, meaning, can we have a conversation about it? That is in itself making sure that we are safeguarding our democratic practices. But as long as we're going to allow Parliament to say we are passing the law, that one political party can become a member of a political party without hearing what the views of the Kenyans are, that means that we're being taken for granted.
But they are
and we don't want this conversation to move to court. We want this conversation to remain in the political space, Parliament and the political parties.
Sure, Frank, but they are passing the law. They are the ones who will legislate, right? So that means that there must be participation in this process. How does that happen? We often say it and it sounds really fancy. And we say, yes, we must all participate in the making of the law. We must participate and get our representatives to represent our views when they go to Parliament. The debate that happened on the 29th in Parliament, so they almost slept there into the new year, and the one that is going to happen tomorrow, has nothing to do with the views of Kenyans today who want to be involved in the political process. Let's just be honest, right? Now, here you are saying that moving forward, such a debate, retain Article 91, retain 1, 2, 3. How practically are Kenyans who have a stake in this supposed to be involved in the process, whereby the people who are involved in legislating all have interests that they're trying to safeguard and are the ones who are essentially going to put it down in red ink in the law? How?
Even the commitment, leave alone the commitment for public participation, even just showing interest. Because the only argument that we have been given for now is that it was published in the daily papers. All right? How many people have access to the physical papers every day? I have to subscribe. If I want to read the Standard, I have to subscribe. How many of us are capable of doing that? So there is no interest at all to consult the public on the part of the political class. The public has not said we do not want to participate. What have been the opportunities and the avenues provided for? And the question is at the core that we already organized ourselves in 2010 by clearly defining what we thought is a political party. All right? So anyone that wants to have a different definition about it must then, it behooves that person that they must be available opportunities for us to engage. And this is exactly what are the complaints about this process, that it may pass in Parliament, but I can basically say that we're going to have a constitutional interpretation of some of the amendments that are going to happen.
I agree with you, Frank, in as far as, we're talking about the process being followed in adequate engagement with the public on this particular matter. But I just want to go back onto the bigger picture. What's the context behind this? Yes, I've heard what you've said about, our multi-party democracy and whether coalitions are actually advancing us or not advancing us towards that direction. But what's our context in this country? In 92 and 97, what was the conversation immediately after the election? Opposition, unite. Was it not? If you want to get this person who has gotten only 30% of the vote and ended up winning as the president, if you want to beat him, then opposition, unite. That was 92, 97. It happened in 2002. Opposition unite, opposition won. But opposition united, they were coming from different organizations, different backgrounds.
Yes.
And the unity is not fold up necessarily. We had only seen NDP and folding up into KANU, but the others were not folding up. So our context is opposition unite is form a coalition, have an agreement of certain arrangement on what you're going to do as political parties ahead of an election or even post an election. And we have seen them coming together pre-election. In 2013, they came together pre-election. 2017, they came together pre-election. What has happened then beyond that? I'm looking at it from that context. If this is what we are learning as our lessons, is it wrong for us to advance the conversation and say, okay, so clearly one political party is going to find it very difficult to win government in an election. You'll need to bring in like-minded political parties.
You need to be corporate.
Like-minded. So those like-minded coming together into a coalition, how are they going to govern themselves and maintain that coalition post-election? They are not maintaining themselves post-election. So how do we do that? Maybe that's why this conversation is coming in. Is it not?
No. Because it is not about improving on the elections coming August. That is a straight no. It is basically to level the playing field in favor of the political class and against the bottom.
Absolutely.
And that is why we need to ask them if it is very much necessary, can we then be able to have, because we will all participate in the elections in August, right?
Yes.
As journalists, as election observers, like some of us, as voters, firstly, and as candidates, and we all will have our contribution. Any contextual conversation today must include the content of how to improve on the conduct of our elections in 2022. 9th August, until the election, the results are declared 7 days later, at most 15th, I think. Then we need this an independent, strong judiciary to, adjudicate the matters that will arise. But this process must be fair, must be transparent, must be credible and verifiable. So when you just come up with last-minute amendments like this, taking advantage or taking it for granted, I think the questions must be raised, all right? And that is the basic conversation that we really want to have.
Or to be able to see through what exactly is happening at the moment.
Yes.
Where a lot of time is being taken up, where it would seem to be that you're throwing, creating a lot of dust around an issue that really is not going to
confuse us about an issue that is not available.
Exactly, that is not an issue.
We don't have a problem of what a political party definition is in this country. We have bigger problems about election campaign financing.
Or can we even go as far as Frank's as saying that it is actually not an issue that affects the electorate where they are right now?
It's actually
that there are
not
other issues
an issue
that
at all.
affect the electorate at the moment that perhaps legislators should be discussing today.
Yes.
Because we're looking at an issue that affects them in terms of political expediency right now. The electorate who essentially will vote for them coming into an election are not concerned about whether
Maybe
they
it does
are
affect
to be
them.
a part of a political
Maybe
party
it does
or
affect
not.
them. Allow me just, I have to keep in throwing in these spanners in the works. Maybe it does affect the ordinary member of Amani National Congress, all right, who saw his party, Amani National Congress, join the NASA coalition, and then who saw how Amani National Congress was treated within the NASA coalition, feels, look, I'd like my party to join a coalition, but I'd like my party respected and my party's position safeguarded within that coalition.
Exactly. But now what Frank is saying is that this issue, the way you have described it right now, they are solving the problem not to solve that issue. They're having this debate not to solve what this member of Amani National Congress has an issue with. They are debating that to sort out themselves for the upcoming election, not what this individual
to the benefit of the members.
With. You see, if they were addressing that issue for the millions of Kenyans who may have that particular issue, you would be able to see right through that that's what they were doing. But it's not. That's not what's happening on the floor of the House.
We don't have a problem that is being solved by this proposal.
No.
I think we will waste a lot of time by the courts also looking at this case. But that is what a democracy is. My favorite position would have been, can we have this as a political conversation. So that we're saying that the contextual environment is that we must have a successful electoral process this year, because that serves everyone, not just the political class. It serves everyone. Everyone wants a clear process that they can be able to normalize 2 weeks after a heated political process. And that is what not this amendment is trying to do. So anything that is not being done to succeed that, then what is your priority? Your priority is using parliament, to gain, selfishly. Because it's not contributing to the process in 2020. I think we should be focusing on the party primaries bill. It is before parliament today. Why is not that a conversation? I just mentioned that some 2 institutions have already moved to court about the elections campaign financing. We know money will play a big role in 2022 general elections. Why are we not addressing that? Because the natural conversation we've had, and it's the same case with parliament again. And I liked when my former, because he was a former boss, Speaker of the National Assembly, said, you basically cabbage in, cabbage out. And I want to challenge him. Could he be also part of that?
Cabbage in.
Cabbage in, cabbage out. And I want to say this about campaign financing, particularly because of mentioning the Honorable Speaker. We have the election campaign financing bill pending in Parliament. He was leadership offered at that level. I think leadership is required. But we have IEBC that followed the Constitution in Article 88.4, I think Article 88.4I, and properly published campaign financing limits. It is a proposal, it is a function that is given by the Constitution. That proposal would have been simple by Parliament saying, yes, you have made the proposal. The Elections Act gives us an opportunity to engage the public. And whoever the amounts as the public deem necessary. Must a presidential candidate take 4 billion shillings in the campaign as proposed by Chepkati or not? And this is the conversation we want to have. But Parliament has suffocated this conversation and is trying now to entertain another set of conversation that is not helpful to the elections. All right? And these are the questions we're honestly asking, that please, let us just be candid and open with each other. That it's an environment that we all appreciate. Can we all do what we should? Because Parliament then is not playing, and it was one of the issues I raised. Is Parliament doing its job? On this occasion, it's failed. On the campaign financing, it's failed. On making sure that we have a conducive environment for the elections is still a question out there.
Or on pending bills for which matters that should be addressed are actually being addressed, because we have so many things pending that would actually make a difference. Failing.
Yeah. Frank, we thank you very much for joining us today. Frank Mukwanja is the Executive Director of the Center for Multi-Party Democracy Kenya. We were talking about the political parties amendment bill that's before Parliament that's attracting heated debate. Heated debate will be back on the floor of the House tomorrow.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.